Hello, this is Sam-Erik from the Social Hotelier. In this episode of Hotel Tech Talk, Jayanth Kolla will be sharing his takeaways from the recently held conference in Bulgaria called Investing in Tourism Sustainability Conference. This was held at the Sunny Beach resort area, and we will also talk about rail travel and Flygskam or Flygskam, his experiences in India and my experiences in Europe. Next on Hotel Tech Talk. If you like this show, your thumbs up is appreciated. Well, hello Jayanth, and nice to see you again on the show.
Hello Sam-Erik, good to see you again.
Well, I understand that you've been traveling quite a bit, and you've been traveling to countries I've never been to. I understand you've been to Bulgaria. How was that?
Oh, Bulgaria was a great experience. Yeah, I was on a 4.5, 5 week travel across North America and Europe. And this was my first time to Bulgaria. If you haven't been there, I would strongly recommend that you visit. It's amazing. I love the people, the architecture, the food, the places, everything that I visited. Yes.
Very good. Now, you attended a conference, right? So, how can you just share about the concept of the conference and how did you get involved in this?
This conference was called Investing in Sustainable Tourism Bulgaria Conference. This was the first, first version or the first time that this conference was being held. And it was being held at Sunny Beach, a picturesque, bayside town with a lot of resorts, in Bulgaria, about 400 odd kilometers from Sofia, the capital city of Bulgaria, right? And the conference was, hosted and put together by the Tourism Ministry of Bulgaria. And we had delegates and speakers from all over the world. I mean, definitely from different parts of Europe. But, I was going in there as an Indian. There were a couple of, Chinese delegates and speakers, from everywhere, from US, UK, all over the place. So it was quite a good day of discussions and a couple of days of getting to know people from different parts of the world. With a great agenda, and we were very well taken care of. This was hosted in Helena Resort in Sunny Beach. That was about the conference.
And considering that your speciality is emerging technologies, how did that fit into the theme of the conference?
There was a separate track on the technology in the travel and tourism space, and in fact I was moderating that panel, and we were about 7 of us speaking at that panel, and we had presentations. There were people from Google, UnionPay, the head of IT department of Bulgaria, people from Bulgaria Tourism, who were presenting. And it was actually the last, track of the day, and we extended the time limit by 40 minutes. And guess what? Everyone stayed in their seats, including the minister, herself. Towards the end, although it was, we were eating into people's cocktail time. Okay, but that particular track was. It was quite interesting. There's a lot, even as a technologist and a technology consultant, that I have learned from that track and moderating that panel.
Oh, that's fantastic! I'm very glad that these topics are now really the hot buttons that people are paying attention to. Yeah. And just to give me some takeaways we can share today in this episode, and what we could do in the future episodes here on the Social Hotelier.
We could talk about just this particular conference at Sunny Beach, Bulgaria. there are multiple things that can be talked about of how the Bulgarian tourism itself, is growing, and what the government and the tourism ministry is doing to impact that. The formulation of something called as Balkan jewels that Bulgaria, along with other countries in the region, is trying to form. The focus, by various ecosystem players and stakeholders in growing the tourism in southeastern Europe, and the focus obviously on sustainable tourism, and and the understanding and the adoption and the openness for adopting emerging digital technologies as enablers in driving all of these. So these could be some of the topics that we could delve into further episodes.
Okay, maybe you can take sort of the big picture and of what you experienced in Bulgaria today. How's that?
Yeah, I mean that works for me. Absolutely, I can talk about my experience in Bulgaria all the while.
Okay, let's do it.
So yeah, I was coming into Sofia from Montreal, actually, via Paris, and like I mentioned, the conference was being held at this place called Sunny Beach, a bayside town, 400 odd kilometers from Sofia. So I had another hour and a half flight that I was supposed to take from Sofia, and between my Paris flight to Sofia and the Burgas flight, I had a 7-hour layover in Sofia. So I took the opportunity to just check in my luggage and go into town. I was recommended that I take the metro right out of the airport and go into the center of the town, which is called Serdica. Okay, and I'll have enough opportunities for sightseeing and cultural tourism there, and historical tourism as well. So I took that opportunity, just checked in my luggage for the next flight, took my hand luggage and just hopped into a metro right at the airport. And while I was just looking at the map as to where I was supposed to get off, this elderly gentleman saw me, looking at the map, and he approached me and he said, "Are you a visitor? Are you a tourist? Can I help you?" And I'm like, "Yes, I'm trying to get to Serdica, which I understand is the center of the town. Trying to go there." He was like, "Okay, I'm heading that way. I will be getting off a few. I should be getting off a few stations before that, but I'll show you where to get off." And airport being the first station, we got in, we got the seat next to each other, and he started giving me the history of Sofia and Bulgaria, the Ottoman rule, the Russian rule, the Roman rule, and how the architecture of the city itself is it has glimpses of all of this, and he started telling me about the food of the region and everything, and we started discussing and talking. And around the time when his stop came, he said, "You know what, Jayanth, why don't I just come along with you to Sardika and show you the three main spots that you should see." I mean, we call it a Bermuda Triangle. There's a synagogue, Catholic church, and a mosque at the center of the town, and those three things are something that you should see. And all the three of them are built in three different eras, okay, and represent three different faiths, of course. So they are something that you should visit. So he insisted on coming along with me, and I was happy to have a friend, a friend that I made very recently to help me out. So we went to the center of the town. Sardika, got out of the metro station. Luckily, I had him to guide me out of that metro station, because considering it was the center of the town metro station, it was quite it had too many entrances and exits. So he knew exactly which one to take out, and we went out. Showed me the different Roman architecture, showed me the interesting tourist destinations. I collected natural hot water coming out of coming out of one of the Roman Roman construction areas. Apparently, Romans were attracted to Bulgaria and Sofia because of the natural hot water springs. So that's something that I did not know. So great. I mean, he took me around, and what ended up happening was we started discussing what he used to do. He's a retired gentleman, and he told me that he was a scientist and used to work on the researching on statistical models for forecasting. And I'm like, what coincidence? I am a technologist working on AI/ML models myself and AI/ML solutions. And we ended up discussing, linear regression and some of those techniques. And we ended up having dinner together. He took me to a really authentic place to buy me some local cuisine. And I insisted that he had dinner with me. So that was a good experience in Sofia. I spent 5 hours without knowing how they went. Yeah.
Well, that's really fantastic, and because this little bit reminds me of something from my past, and I want to share you just a small story. What happens is that it actually is triggered by the awareness of climate change and how people are now being concerned about using air travel, and substitute, particularly European travel, will travel by rail.
Right.
When I was in my late teens, obviously I could not afford to take a flight somewhere, so I was using the train. And I had planned to go to Hungary, to Budapest, and it was a city I wanted to go, but I had never been. And I took a train, the ferry from Helsinki to Stockholm, then train all the way, ending up in Germany, and then on the same train to Budapest, I sat in the same kind of car with a elderly couple from Argentina, and turned out that they were immigrants from Hungary who had immigrated to Argentina, and this was their first visit after so many years to go and to see their old home country and old hometown. So they were from Budapest, and I knew nothing about Budapest, like you didn't know anything where you were going.
Exactly.
And so what happened was that we were sitting here chatting up, and turned out that, hey, Sam, we want to show you what we know. There are many things that haven't changed, I'm sure, so let's show you around. And they eventually took me to places I would never have found, and it took me to some very authentic restaurants that I would never have found without their help. And we had a great conversation. And so I was thinking now, we are talking about 30 years later, right? What has happened now when we are traveling? If I would travel to Budapest now, I would take a plane, right? From Helsinki, Budapest.
Yeah.
Of course, I'm traveling with my wife, so we have a great time and best time when we're traveling together. But in the event I would have been traveled by myself, I doubt I would have the conversation with anyone or catching up with, getting to meet anyone in the same way as I met up on the train at that time. And I probably would have ended up at the airport and then trying to find up well, if I would be very lucky like you were, I may have met someone very nice who have helped me out. But I think the difference now is that the rail travel is becoming more and more popular, and there's something is called fly shame, and it's in Swedish Flygskam. And what it means is that the people are reluctant, at least in Sweden, to travel by plane, particularly domestic travel, because they feel that this is not environmental friendly. And there's a girl, she's 16 years old, Greta Thunberg. She is a climate activist, and she insisted that she will only travel by train this year. She went to meet the European, she went to Strasbourg for the European meetings, and I think also to Brussels. And she told her father, we are not flying, we are only going by train. So they traveled all the way through Europe by train, and she held a very strong speech in the European Parliament about how that you have been letting us down. We are the children. I'm 15 years old. How's this world going to be like when I turn as old as you guys are? and you have done nothing about it. So she was quite active, and so now this has kind of triggered a lot of people in their parents and also children saying to their parents, well, Mom, Dad, we're not going to fly. I would love to go there, but if we cannot go by rail, I'm not going. So there's a little bit of a change here happening, and this is just a small story from my side of kind of trying to relate to what you went through.
Yeah, I mean, I can imagine, and I can completely, what can I say? I can completely relate to what that little 16-year-old girl said, right? I mean, because unknowingly we are eating up into the planet's resources, and this flying, or taking the flight to everything, every place that we go, leaving a carbon footprint is, eating into the resources of the planet, and what are we leaving to the next generation, and we need to think about that. I think that's a great initiative, and fly shame is something that I've heard for the first time. I'll definitely look into it, and great initiative by Europeans. And I mean, I've always felt Europeans to be the most conscious people on earth. So, and happy to hear even the next generation, Gen Z, that is Gen Z, taking this initiative.
Yeah, and they are very outspoken, which I think is no fear, and they're outspoken. And the fly shame is, with the way I found out about it, it's a hashtag, fly shame or Flygskam in Swedish, and they used to be popular in Instagram, where people are bragging that they're on the airport and they're taking selfies on their way to exotic places, and then they take another picture above the clouds. And but now what happened was that people were starting to comment with the hashtag fly shame. So suddenly you start to see less pictures of people taking selfies in the plane. So that is how social media works, and people react very, very, very strongly to it. And there's another thing which has happened in Sweden. There is a Facebook group which is called Tåg Semester. It's a rail holiday or train holiday. And this train holiday Facebook group has, can you imagine, 80,000 members. Wow. 80,000 members on Facebook. And what they do is they are discussing with each other what is the best route by rail to go to. What was the place you went to in Bulgaria?
Sofia.
Okay, Sofia, right. Okay, no, Sofia is not maybe difficult, but if there would be a small distant town in the outskirts of, in some faraway place in Bulgaria, you could ask on this Facebook group, and somebody will come up with a plan for you how to route your rail trip.
Oh wow! That's very interesting. And this is all across Europe?
Well, there are people traveling now. No, this Facebook group is obviously on Facebook, and they cover any trips anywhere in the world, because there is a popular rail trip going from Helsinki through Siberia, through the all the way to through China. You can go a 2-week trip, Trans-Siberia train.
I know of that. It's on my bucket list somehow. Yeah. So talking of trains, I have to tell you this part of my life. I literally grew up in trains in India. My mother used to work for Indian Railways, and she used to get what we used to call as 3 free passes per year for the family, and 6 something called as PTOs, of which we pay 1/6 and the government pays 5/6 of the fare. And my mom, among all her colleagues and friends that I know of, was the only one who would use up all of those 9 free passes and 6 PTOs all through the year. And she ensured, she had a travel bug. My father, working in the bank every 3 years, used to get posted in different parts of the country. The northernmost part he was posted was in a city called Amritsar in Punjab, which is 25 kilometers from the Pakistan border. So my mother used to take this opportunity to visit dad twice a year, and en route, visit a lot of places. So it was a 40-hour train journey from down south in Hyderabad where I used to live. So so I literally grew up in trains, have the best memories, and I also believe a certain part of my character has been built thanks to those train journeys.
Oh, that's fantastic. I mean, that's a very good story. I mean, so we are sharing some similarities in many ways.
Absolutely.
We are finding that we know about each other a little bit more than the tech side, but also about this the rail travel, and very exciting that you have had the chance to travel to many parts of India and see the country by train. I mean, there's a great. I mean, you must have a very wide network of rail service in India, isn't it?
Oh yeah, I think Indian Rail Service is probably the biggest network in the world. Built by the British back in the day.
Yeah.
And for a very long time, I think it still holds. Indian Railways is the biggest employer also in the world. In terms of number of people they employ. Yeah, we have a extremely vast network of trains. Yeah.
Okay, very good. I mean, thanks, Jayanth, for this update. And I think we were routed through Sofia to my experience in Budapest and your travels in India. So that was a great discussion.
Absolutely.
So we're going to do the next episodes. We'll dig a little bit deeper into your experience at the Sustainable Tourism Conference, and very exciting about the Bulgaria or Baltic Jewel you talk about, and other initiatives that are being developed and action. So let's catch up on this next episode and talk about those things.